Hello again, wrestling fans. We are building up to night 2 of WrestleMania. After a great start, we get to see if they can actually stick the landing. And hopefully, given everything that went on previously, they will. We, of course, are joined by another guest today. This time we are joined by Ella J of A Wrestling Gal podcast and so many other things. I will definitely ask you to introduce yourself formally, Ella, because you are so involved at the moment in wrestling. I'm seeing you all over the place, and I'm so happy to see it. Because I do feel I've been listening to your stuff for a while now. And the more I listen to it, the more confident I am that you are going to be everywhere in no time. It's like when you go to an indie show and you see a wrestler who's like, hang on, surely they're top level though. Surely they're like they've been wrestling everywhere for years. You get that feeling. Ella, would you like to introduce yourself to the viewers watching today?
Hello, as Tom said, I am Ella J, host of A Wrestling Gal podcast, all about the female perspective on pro wrestling. I like to bring a lot of interviews, but occasionally I like to throw in some fun episodes like Wrestlemania predictions. I've done like top 10 wrestling theme songs, but mainly I'm all about interviews and hashtag girl power. But as Tom said, I'm doing a lot of things besides my own podcast, not only being on other people's podcasts. I am also recently the host of a new show on SE Scoops called Women's Wrestling Focus, which is basically highlighting the past, present, and the future of women's wrestling, whether it be WWE, AEW, Stardom, the independent scene. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining. I am also the host, or I am also the editor of Gawcast, which is Gaw TV's podcast. So that involves Mickey James, SoCal Val, and Lisa Marie Varon, aka Victoria. I am their editor for that. So I'm also Team Gaw. And most recently, I am now officially staff on Bell to Bells, which we're going to be doing some fun interviews after Mania because this past week has been crazy, but I'm excited to be working with Bell to Bells too as well, as of right now. So,
for anyone not familiar with Bell to Bells, it is run by Kristen Ashley, Warren Hayes, and Lauren Folds, I believe is how you pronounce her name. Not entirely sure. I believe that's how you pronounce her name. I do have a couple of articles on Bell to Bells from way back when it first started out. I do remember writing one, I think in 2016, about Rhea Ripley and how WWE just needed to get out of her way.
Yeah.
Way back when. But it's definitely somewhere to go if you are looking for a female-focused production, which really does display things that need a little bit more focus at the moment, things where we're finally starting to catch up. Ed has very generously put a link tree in to Twitch.
Thank you, Ed.
And everything she is working on. We very much welcome any questions that you guys have, anything you want to jump in the chat, but we are going to talk about, firstly, WrestleMania's Night 1, and then we're going to break down WrestleMania Night 2 upcoming a little bit. Ella, I want to start by talking about the main event just a little bit, because I do feel this is something that's reached a lot of people, that's connected with a lot of people, and the feeling you get when you see that emotional reaction on Bianca Belair's face, Sasha Banks briefly losing it as well, and really connecting across that ring, realizing what they're about to do. What was your reaction personally to that match?
I started tearing up last night I was on another live stream watch along. I started tearing up because that moment was just so important and you could feel the energy and like the real meaning that this match meant to Sasha and Bianca, not only them, but transcending into the crowd to little girls everywhere, that women can do everything. And then you had the strength of Bianca Belair versus the intelligence of Sasha Banks. I saw someone put it, and that was so perfect. And that honestly might have been the best women's wrestling match I've ever seen. It's very up there with like Sasha and Bayley, even possibly the best of all time. And they were so worthy of main eventing, and they had so many cool moves, so many innovative spots that had everybody on the edge of their toes. It really was who's going to win, because you could make a case for Sasha Banks. You could also make a case for Bianca Belair. So we really didn't know who was winning until that final 1, 2, 3, where Bianca pinned Sasha. And I was very, very proud, very, very pleased, so proud of them. And especially afterwards, even though Sasha Banks lost, she was so graceful and so happy for Bianca in that moment. If you guys have not seen that video on Twitter that a fan caught of Sasha Banks smiling like through the tears after she lost, she was so happy for Bianca in that moment. And they know that they made herstory. And I think that's going to go down as one of the best women's wrestling matches ever.
It was an extremely clever match as well, from where I'm sitting, just looking at in-ring psychology. The fact that Sasha went out there to just pull hair and then got caught by the hair, essentially. But the way they showcased the different strengths of Bianca Belair, Sasha Banks really was just there as a foil to say, okay, this is who we're working with. Really show that off and be shrewd and try and evade the best way she could. When you look at the build to this match, was there ever a moment when you were losing faith in the direction of it, in the presentation of it?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, the match itself was great, but the build to it was just so confusing. And it felt like a last minute. I mean, everybody was behind them on Twitter wanting them to main event, but we never got confirmation until 2 or 3 days before Mania. So it was up in the air where they were going to be on this card. And to be main event, I felt like they should have built it up later or built it up faster and built it up better. But again, it might have been a last minute decision thing. They did so many like unnecessary things, putting them in the tag team title picture, especially if they weren't even going to win them. It's just they were wasting time when they could have actually been focusing on the women's tag team division and then done a separate thing with Sasha and Bianca. If they weren't going to have them win the titles, I don't feel like it was necessary to implant them into that women's tag team title picture. But however, the match was incredible. The build is another story, though.
Absolutely. And it does kind of show that sometimes, no matter what you're scripted to do, you can still deliver in spite of a bad story. There's been a number of times when that's happened. I look at the rise of Becky Lynch when Charlotte first returned to reclaim the women's championship at SummerSlam from Carmella. It looked to me, for the world, that Becky Lynch was being overlooked, and that was a story they were telling. In actuality, clearly otherwise, but the fans really got behind Becky for that. Sometimes, even if the storylines are against you, you have to essentially throw off the shackles yourself. And I do think that's what we saw last night. Ed has asked the question, is the WWE Women's Division getting a WrestleMania 21 style reset with Bianca winning and possibly having Rhea come straight up and winning, similarly to the reset at WrestleMania 21 with Cena and Batista? Basically, do you see this as something of a new generation potentially for the women coming up now?
I hope so, because it just proves that you don't necessarily have to come up as a big name. But that, I mean, you don't have to be a part of the Four Horsewomen. There's other people outside of the picture. It now feels like finally some new stars. I mean, we've obviously seen Bliss do her thing, and we've seen Shayna Baszler do her thing in NXT. But main roster wise, it's been primarily the Four Horsewomen and Alexa Bliss. So now this gives a new rejuvenation into the women's division that you can build new stars organically. Bianca Belair did not have a background in wrestling at all. She came in from track and all of that, and you've seen her put in the work and steadily rise. So I do think it gives new hope and new rejuvenation to the women's division, especially now. You not only have Bianca, but you have Rhea Ripley on the main roster too. We're getting some new names and new faces that, as long as they don't screw things up, I really think can run this women's division for the next few years.
I kind of hate that we always have to put that little caveat in, as long as they don't screw things up.
Yeah.
Which is a genuine concern and something that we will get to a little bit later on when we talk about the Raw Women's Championship. I feel that's a moment in which we might talk about if they don't screw it up. But before we do that, let's talk a little bit more about the general WrestleMania card. We opened with Drew McIntyre losing a WWE Championship match with Bobby Lashley. Did this surprise you at all?
No, and well, I've done a couple prediction shows, and I've been the only one that saw Bobby retaining. I get the case, though, for wanting Drew to win, especially now that he is now back in front of a crowd and wanting him to have that moment, but it felt like too soon. You know, like I said yesterday on another show, we've had 4 different title changes within the last 6 months for the WWE Championship. We've had Randy Orton, Drew McIntyre, The Miz, and now Bobby Lashley. I feel like it is way too soon to take that title off of Bobby. He clearly dropped the United States Championship for a reason, to become WWE champion. If they are going to make it worthwhile, you need to keep Bobby as your champion, especially now that the Hurt Business just broke up. I want to know what's going to happen next. And Drew didn't necessarily need that when he had such a rise and the crowd was so behind him during this last year. He carried Raw. He carried the WWE Championship for a while. So I don't think he necessarily needed the win last night. I really think Bobby needed and deserved that win. So personally, I'm happy with it, but I do feel a little bit bad for Drew that he never got to defend the WWE Championship in front of a live crowd. So there's always that drawback too.
I think if anything, this suggests that Drew's moment, while maybe not now in front of fans, we will eventually have fans back. So I would imagine the moment is coming. I feel a lot of people are putting maybe a bit too much stock in this one moment where it didn't really need to be focused.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I personally did expect Drew to win it, get that moment, and then lose it back to Lashley in a bit of hot-shotting. Maybe I've just been trained to think that a little bit, though, to be fair. Moving on, let's talk briefly about the women's tag team turmoil match, which isn't getting the greatest reviews online, but in our personal chat, we actually quite enjoyed it. I felt it was quite innovative. You look at Carmella and Billie Kay using a different roll-up system, Billie Kay with the towel just trying to make things happen. Riot Squad were trying different things, didn't always pan out for me, but they were trying different things in the teamwork. What did you make of this match and the winner for it?
I feel like it was a bit rushed. I think it had the potential to be great. Again, we don't know if the delay last night interfered on the time for that match, whether it was supposed to go longer or not, And then there was that weird spot where the Riot Squad rolled up Mandy Rose, I believe. Well, Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose. There was that little botch in there. I felt like it wasn't as good as it could have been if they were given more time. It felt a little bit rushed to me. But again, I really loved the stuff with Billie Kay and Carmella. That was great. I was rooting for the Riot Squad because they were really the only genuine team. And we saw them make a bit of a run there for a moment. But again, there was a few moments in the match where there was a couple of errors and botches that kind of ruined it for me a little bit. Again, nothing can be perfect, but it felt a bit rushed for me, although I'm pretty pleased with the outcome. It felt very nostalgic seeing a heart attack and a splash happen. So now I'm just hoping that it's not a waste, that they can capitalize and they can go all out for this women's tag team title match tonight.
What do you think of their chances as regards going against Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler?
See, I've heard mixed things. I can see people's cases for wanting new champions because as it right now stands in the Raw women's division, you really only have two top players with Rhea Ripley and Asuka, and Rhea Ripley just came up. So I can see the case for Shayna and Nia losing and then them being inserted like back into the Raw Women's Championship picture. So you have some other bigger names there. So I can see the case for Natty and Tamina to win, but I just don't personally see Shayna and Nia losing these to a team who kind of just formulated. But then again, they throw teams together all the time. So I can see both ways, but I personally see Shayna and Nia retaining tonight. But I can see the case for a new champs.
Personally, I go the other way, mostly because of what you've said there about there not being enough top-level talent.
Yeah.
Raw. It reminds me a lot of the old days when they'd have Undertaker and Stone Cold as the tag team champions.
Mm-hmm.
And you just feel they're kind of too big for the championships, but at the same time, they're elevating the championships by having them. They've kind of beaten everyone, though. And the women's tag division doesn't cycle through enough to create new tag teams in time and build someone new up. It's not like having Sasha beat everyone and then Bianca Belair be there ready for her. Mm-hmm. There's no one there ready for them. At the same time, though, we also have to consider the fact that this might be all about Reginald again.
That is true. There's always that looming factor. Is Reginald going to interfere and distract Nia and Shayna, and then we'll get new tag champs? There's always that family history there too between Tamina and Nia. There's always that family story going on, like the generations. So they have that. I think it's going to be a classic match. They're for Natalya is one of the most gifted wrestlers ever, technically ever. So I'm hoping it's going to be a good match. We don't know what role Reginald is going to play though, so we'll see how it plays out.
It should be a good match with the talent in there. Mm-hmm. Natalya's been very involved in the training of a lot of the women coming through. She's easily the most experienced person there, and one of the most talented. Never really given her dues from a lot of the fan base and where I'm sitting, but she has been consistent, delivering high quality of a breadth of opponents. At the same time, you've got Nia Jax and Tamina. They've got that connection. They've got that chemistry. And you've got Shayna Baszler, who's a great technical wrestler. I think Natalya and Shayna Baszler could work magic just in a technical capacity. It depends really. Sure. It depends how long they get. Because as you've mentioned, we could possibly have seen the tag team turmoil match cut down a little bit because of the delay yesterday. Mm-hmm. I do feel, looking at the times of each match, nothing went beyond 20 minutes. That surprises me.
Really?
Yeah, nothing went beyond 20 minutes. I think the longest was the opening match, which was about 18.
Huh. Maybe it just felt like longer to me. See, I didn't even notice that. It felt like they were a few of them felt really long. Huh. But I mean, overall, night one was fantastic, though. But that doesn't really bother me too much with the time. I just wish the women were given, at least for the tag team tournament match, given a little bit more time because it felt a bit rushed. But again, we get it. They had to be cut off by midnight, and their watch along literally ended at 11:50, their post show. So
Fair enough. It's one of those, we don't know what the case is, and I've always been a proponent here. If you can't have a good match in 15 minutes, you can't have a good match.
Yeah.
That's my personal opinion on it. But it's part of a wealth of different opinions as regards that. Let's talk for a moment about Cesaro and Seth Rollins. Are you a fan of the suits?
Some of the suits are crazy. I mean, Seth Rollins has got that drip, and I mean, if he loves it, then go all out. I mean, I've seen John Morrison in crazy stuff too. Like they're very similar with their styles, and I mean, he calls himself Johnny Drip Drip, and then Seth Rollins is definitely showing his style. I think it adds a fun element though to his character for sure. Seth Rollins.
He's able to add a lot more comedy in since he's become a heel. Since bringing back the heel laugh, for me, that's just so much fun, bringing back that particular character element where he's just really enjoying the fact that we hate him. They managed to sort of break a record. It's not a real record, but they did more swinging than they previously did, which is always what we're looking for at WrestleMania, just as much swinging as possible. Do you think Cesaro's going somewhere as a launch pad from this, or do you think this is sort of the brick wall at the end of the journey?
I mean, we have Money in the Bank coming up, so I think if they're going to capitalize on Cesaro, but then again, we've always seen start, stop with him, so I feel like I'm kind of skewed and biased from that. Like, I'm just, what's the word, conditioned to have my standards lowered. We have Money in the Bank coming up, so if they're going to capitalize on Cesaro's momentum, that is the perfect time to do so. I hope so, but again, I'm kind of conditioned to like fear the worst at this point.
Completely agree and see where you're coming from there. Ed is asking a question, and just beforehand, I do want to say that on our channel, we've been talking for a while about the idea of maybe a shake-up after WrestleMania. This is just theorizing and putting predictions out there, but I think Bayley's a perfect example of someone who could really benefit from a shake-up, and the Raw Women's division really needs just a bit of a refresh for me from where I'm sitting. What Ed is asking is, does WWE have an issue with too much great women's talent? It seems like NXT is starting to have a log jam, as you have Taya, Frankie, I believe she's referred to as now, debuting on Tuesday, and Raw and SmackDown women's rosters may need a shake-up. Personally, I really like the SmackDown women's roster. I think that's very well balanced, but they have all competed against each other. Do you think there's maybe a log jam at the moment in NXT, and how would you fix it if you were put in charge of that?
I can see the case for that. However, I have heard some rumblings of bringing back Evolve or adding another show, much like AEW does AEW Dark Elevation now. So I've heard there's been rumblings of an NXT show like Evolve on there. So I think if they're going to do that, you have the roster to do so. But I do think in some regards it is oversaturated with a bit, because you could use everybody, but using everybody well is another story. You don't just want to throw everybody out there and have it be meaningless and not worthwhile. So I can see the case for it. But again, if you just moved Rhea Ripley up. I'm hearing people say they're going to move Io Shirai up, but again, we don't know. I mean, right now you have people out. You have Lacey Evans out. Yeah. You have Becky Lynch out. You have, I don't know, Charlotte's technically out. So you have 3 top women like out right now. So I mean, Taya coming to NXT, and you just brought up Rhea and possibly another call up. They have the room right now while their girls are out, but when they come back is a different story. I wouldn't mind a shakeup though, especially for Raw. Like, send Bayley to Raw. They need her. They really need some more depth to their Raw Women's Championship title picture. Their mid card is doing well, but the top girls, they need some more depth to that.
Completely agree there. Raw's women's division at the moment is mostly tag teams and then a couple of people at the top.
Yeah.
Which is a difficult position for someone like Asuka, because she doesn't really have any opponents. She's had a match with Peyton Royce, who's someone who was made available by the lack of availability for Lacey Evans. But as you say, Lacey Evans is out. We're likely not to see her for a while. In addition to that, we've got Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler tied up elsewhere. Rhea Ripley is being called up. I feel personally, if Rhea Ripley hadn't been needed, we may have seen her win a women's battle royal, but that obviously hasn't happened either. But that's just my opinion on that. At the same time, we don't know. We have no idea what's going on with Charlotte at the moment. There are a number of rumors out there. We're always very careful with which rumors we choose to believe and which we don't. But Charlotte Flair, for me, is top level, and wherever she goes, she brings a lot with her. Yeah. You did mention Becky Lynch there. There was rumors going around, and I have to address these. Firstly, this came from Dave Meltzer, who didn't say it was going to happen. He said, well, this might happen. At no point did he say it was going to happen. That's something I have to immediately address because I'm not 100% behind Dave Meltzer, but if he's being misquoted, he's being misquoted. That basically got a storm going, and then Becky went into full tease mode as she has done at the Royal Rumble previously. Do you think there is any chance we see Becky Lynch tonight? And do you think we should see Becky Lynch tonight?
I really don't think so. Then again, we've seen Maurice come back very recent, like right after pregnancy, so it's not impossible. And I mean, the story is there because Becky can easily come back and say, I never really lost my Raw Women's Championship. And then you have a built in legit storyline right there. But she did just give birth literally like 4 months ago.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we've seen it happen. We've seen Maurice come back very recently after like pregnancy before. So it's not impossible. I don't really foresee it happening. I just think she is trolling and getting the fans hyped up for her return like she did at the Royal Rumble. But I mean, I would love to see her back. The storyline would be there. Raw needs her. Raw needs more depth, like I said, and that would be really fun. If she does come back, I don't want it to take away from Rhea Ripley's potential. I think Rhea Ripley's winning the Raw Women's Championship tonight. I just don't want it to take away from that. That's my only thing. But at the same time, Raw does kind of need her, especially if we are not getting a shakeup. I've also heard some rumblings about Ronda Rousey. So I think we're going to get one or the other, Becky Lynch or Ronda. If we are getting any return tonight, it's going to be one or the other, not both.
I completely agree there. I find it very interesting that the WWE announced Ronda Rousey's contract is 3 years. And now that contract is ended, now we're hearing rumors once again about Ronda Rousey returning. We've also seen Ronda Rousey appear in gaming shows for the WWE.
Yeah.
We've seen her appear on After the Bell with Corey Graves. Admittedly, after that first 12 months, we haven't seen her in a WWE ring, but we have seen pictures of her with Cain Velasquez at Titan Tower. She doesn't seem to have actually gone away. So it's interesting when we see so many rumors pop up right after officially the contract that was announced has ended. Whether or not maybe there's meetings going on, I don't know, and I can't even begin to speculate. But for me, if you're going to have a next WrestleMania main event, you do have one definite inbuilt story between Becky Lynch and Ronda Rousey. Becky Lynch, in fact, brings a ton of inbuilt stories with her. At the same time, I think a lot of people are showing a certain misunderstanding of the fact that you don't just walk off pregnancy. You don't just walk off childbirth. Yeah, I worry for the state of things that I have to really say that. It's a confusing thing. My opinion has always been the same. Becky Lynch will come back whenever the goddamn well she wants to, and that'll be it. If she wants to, obviously it's entirely up to her as well if she chooses to or chooses not to. Now, I do think she'll add a lot. I think most people are wanting this because of what's going on with the Raw Women's division at the moment. It's simply not a strong position to be in, and they do need new blood. For me, the shakeup is the obvious way to do it. Maybe, yes, as you've mentioned, Io Shirai could be called up, and Michael has asked a question here. If Io gets called up, who would you want to see her first feud be against? Now, obviously, we don't know. If she is called up, would it be Raw or SmackDown? So let's just look at the rosters as they are. Would you like to pick one from Raw and one from SmackDown?
Sure. I got Raw. So I would love to see Io Shirai versus Naomi because they're both incredibly athletic and I think they can really, really bring it. However, you don't necessarily need one of them to be heel. I could think they could put on a clinic and it would be really, really fun and really entertaining. For SmackDown, oh man. I mean, Bayley. I feel like it would be so fun with Bayley's character to go against Io Shirai, who is so lively and who's kind of a wild card. I think it would be really, really entertaining. So I would love to see Io versus Bayley. That'd be really, really cool. Oh man, that's got me thinking. I think Io Shirai versus can make anyone look good, to be honest, but those two I think could work real magic with her.
I love what you're saying with Naomi, and I specifically remember a Money in the Bank several years ago where Naomi and Ember Moon had a mini match in the middle of the match, and they were flying around all over the place. The tempo was incredible, and it was so disappointing that we didn't get a full feud out of that, because I just feel you don't need a story there. You've mentioned, for example, the idea of someone needs to be healed. As you say, really, we don't need that.
Yeah.
Heel versus heel doesn't necessarily work, but face versus face can work absolutely fine. So I would definitely put them together. I love the idea of just everyone jumping off the ropes, and that'd be a lot
Right?
of fun. That'd be a lot of fun. It disappoints me we didn't get too much Io Shirai and Ember Moon
Yeah.
when they were both in NXT, but we are where we are, and hopefully we will see that feud coming at some point soon. Bayley, as you mentioned there, for me, Bayley is probably one of the best wrestlers going at the moment.
Oh, for sure.
She needs the right opponent to showcase her full range, because she's a technical wrestler. She has a lot of submission reversals in the style that Samoa Joe has. Her match with Asuka at SummerSlam was just constant mat wrestling, grounding Asuka down, going from submission into submission, then being swapped and reversed. It was absolutely glorious. I feel with Io Shirai being someone who likes to fly, you also have that, but she can still wriggle out of things.
Oh, yeah.
So I would love to see that match, Bayley trying to ground her, but not being able to really get a firm foothold. That would make a lot of sense to me. Noob has said, I want to finish between Asuka and Becky Lynch. There needs to be a definitive finale between Asuka and Becky. Now, they have had several rounds. Primarily, it's been a Royal Rumble thing or in and around that time. But I don't believe Asuka ever beat Becky Lynch. So I worry that there was a definitive finale. I don't believe Asuka... Oh, no, sorry, I'm completely wrong.
Yeah.
Royal Rumble 2019. Yep.
Yeah.
Asuka got hers, then Becky got hers. Yep. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. Wrong way around on that. That's entirely on me. But yeah, so in that regard, would you like to see a definitive finale?
I think so. I mean, those are two of the most top caliber and top talented women. I mean, they really couldn't do much wrong. It'd be really enticing, and I would like to see I just want to see that. I think that would be incredible. They're two of the most gifted wrestlers in the world, so why not?
I'm going to skip ahead ever so slightly with the matches that came on night one. I don't really want to talk more about Shane McMahon and Braun Strowman. unless you'd like to launch into something on that, then I would happily just glide past that and pretend it never happened, if that's cool with you.
All I really have to say is that it exceeded my expectations. I really thought it was going to be a dud. I did like the spot where Braun ripped the cage off. That was cool, but other than that, I mean, it is what it was. That was a cool spot, though.
It was, and I'm glad we got at least something.
Yeah,
we got
it was better than
something worth talking
expected.
about.
Yeah,
and I'm so glad Shane lost.
I don't think there was any world where, unless Shane pulled a Kevin where Braun literally just threw him off and threw a table, there was no way that Braun was losing.
The issue you've got there is that I felt exactly the same way about Miz when it was Shane versus Miz. I don't feel we can ever really count out Shane McMahon. He literally beat the hell out of Braun and then painted him green.
True.
So, Shane McMahon is, I think we can all say quite strongly that Shane is the toughest guy in the world. We know that. Yeah. We know that very, very well. Sometimes I catch myself saying things and wonder why I do this. Let's talk instead about Bad Bunny. Firstly, what did you think when we saw 30 bunnies just appear in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the ring?
Somebody said, though, yesterday that it's going to be a funny tale when in 5 or 10 years, somebody's first debut in WWE is going to be as a bunny at WrestleMania in the Bad Bunny match. Much like we saw Charlotte, Alexa, and Sasha be Triple H's like goddesses around him at WrestleMania is like their WrestleMania debut. I just thought that was hilarious. It's really on brand with Miz and Morrison, and anybody who knows me knows that those are my guys. I thought it was really, really funny. Although it was weird, some of the bunnies didn't have ears, but I mean, if they're gonna perform Hey Hey Hop Hop, go all out. So they did that. I found it really entertaining personally, but maybe my perception is skewed because I love those guys so much.
I am a big Miz fan. I'm not specifically this particular storyline fan. For me, it's a bit too much not for me, as it were. It goes for a younger audience or whatever works best in that regard. But every now and then it's one of those, just turn off your brain, have a laugh. And seeing that many bunnies come down to the ring, most of them with their hands in their mouths for some reason, which I have no idea why, hopping around, it was so magnificently confusing. It's like when you see the music video, I didn't mind Hey Hey Ho Ho. It's been a guilty pleasure, what can I say, that I actually didn't mind it. Hop Hop, however, when suddenly they're in bunny costumes, not quite
Oh,
there for it.
those you could tell though that they were having a lot of fun. And I mean, at the end of the day, you're there to bring smiles on people's faces. Nobody was really expecting this to be an intense matchup as it was. It was really entertaining though at the end of the day, and you could tell Miz and Morrison were having a lot of fun. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, especially when it's a celebrity match like this.
Absolutely. Things like that, you need to really be focused on the celebrity aspect. And that seems to be what Miz and Morrison were doing the entire time. Firstly, though, I do have to give a quick shout out. We were basically sitting during the Hall of Fame. I put on a suit, put on a nice tie, and got all dressed up for the stream. We were rating everyone's suits. Morrison came in at a very strong second after Montez Ford. The man knows how to wear a suit. What can I say?
His hairstyle, though, is a different different thing, but yeah, he's always very well dressed, so I will give him credit. He really is Johnny Drip Drip, giving Seth Rollins a run for his money.
I've had many questions about the hair over the last few months. He's very, very committed to the hair.
Yeah.
I wonder why. All the time I see it and I just wonder, John, why? But we are where we are, and
Yeah.
to be fair, I think it's like Seth Rollins and the glove. At some point, he wears a glove. Everyone on Twitter hates it, so he keeps going and really focuses on the glove. Same thing that's happened with the suits. What did you think of Bad Bunny's debut?
Oh my God, far exceeded anybody's expectations. I mean, I had been hearing though that he had been training almost every day and taking it very seriously. I don't think anybody expected Bad Bunny to pull out a Falcon Arrow, an arm drag, and a freaking Canadian Destroyer. I don't think anybody expected that. And then him jumping out of the ring. Like, I don't think anybody expected that. Doing a suicide dive, who would have thought that? I think that is possibly, besides Pat McAfee, like the best celebrity match of all time. And you had Miz and Morrison, the perfect guys in there to do it. You knew the result, you knew the outcome already. But to see it come full circle and to have two veterans like Miz and Morrison, who are two of the safest workers, two of the best sellers, two of the most gracious and humble people, to be able to put over Bad Bunny and Damian Priest and his WrestleMania debut. Those were the two perfect guys to do so. And that match was amazing. I honestly thought it was going to be a squash match, so I was pleasantly surprised when it went. I don't know what the exact time was, but I was very pleasantly surprised that they actually gave them some time, though.
They did. They had quite a bit of time. It did remind me a little bit of Ronda Rousey's debut, the way they were building up to the hot tag. But The Miz is one of those, just to highlight what you're saying here and expand on it. The Miz is one of those, whenever you have a Royal Rumble, if The Miz is in the ring, whenever someone runs down, The Miz is stood in the middle of the ring waiting to be hit hard. And this comes back to other stories that Cody Rhodes has said about Media Row. After an event that they do a lot of interviews with the media, and the people who always turn up first, dressed sharp, ready to make interviews were Cody Rhodes and The Miz. Always working, always giving back. I've been on Media Row where you've had to wait 20 minutes, where you've had to wait an hour because someone's taking their time. And they never tell you who, they just don't let anyone come in. But you get to know the names eventually because of how many you go on. Miz really does strike me as one of those people, and from all the stories that you hear, who's always working, always on, always giving back, and who really loves this business.
He is so... I could go on a soapbox here, but I'll try to keep it short, because The Miz, I feel like, is so underrated and so underappreciated for all the work that he does. He's great on the mic. He's great at selling. He rarely ever gets injured. I can only remember one injury, and it really wasn't anything serious. He's great at acting. He is great with charisma, and in the ring, he can make you hate him. Even though I love him, sometimes I find myself wanting to boo him. So he is so all around too, and he's one of the most humble and gracious guys ever. Like, he's a great guy now that he's a father too and everything, and he is obviously one of their go-to guys for media because he lives and breathes and loves this business so much, and you can see that so much in his work, and the fact that he's willing to take a back seat to put over a superstar like Bad Bunny just speaks volumes to his career. And when I was talking to him earlier this week, I was just really blown away, because I'm still salty that his reign was so short. But the way he put it, though, he basically said that, yes, it was a short reign, but he was there to do what he needed to do. And even though it was an 8-day reign, he was still the guy for 8 days to trusted to transition this championship now to Bobby Lashley and then insert himself into this debut from Bad Bunny and Damian Priest. He was the go-to guy for it. And I mean, at the end of the day, he's a 2-time Grand Slam champion, so nobody's taking that away from him.
Absolutely. We've talked for a while on this channel. We were really focused on TakeOver, the idea of a backup champion. Finn Balor was the perfect example. When someone was injured, he stepped up and he really took the bull by the horns. The Miz for me has always been that player where no matter what happens, you can trust a Miz title reign. And I'm extremely happy that he managed to get a second reign. Even if it was brief, there were times in the beginning of the brand split when he cut the promo on Talking Smack and really got the world talking when he was feuding with Daniel Bryan. When people were screaming out for this championship reign, I'm glad the moment came. I know it was to serve a greater storyline, but ultimately, I think that's more true to form of The Miz than anything else. The fact that he literally was there just to put someone else over, I think personally, just my opinion here, he probably preferred that. Where I'm sitting, I think he would have preferred that. Building up something else, building up someone else. That's just my opinion anyway.
Maybe. Again, we don't really know. I mean, at the end of the day, he did get that moment and he's now down in the history books. I just think I'm like such a Miz fan that it had been 10 years and I can see both sides of it. I was just kind of let down that it took 10 years for him to regain it and then to have him lose it within such a short amount of time. Like that moment when he won, I feel like not a lot of people could truly understand. But again, it's a testament. 10 years ago, everybody was booing The Miz. This time about 50-50 because people throughout the years have learned to respect him more, and rightfully so because he does so much and he's been here 15, 16 years now, which not a lot of people can say. And he's been the one constant, their go-to guy whenever they need something. It's like same with like a Ziggler who can be trusted to do stuff and put people over with a smile on their face. And it's just a testament to him as a person and his character work and just work ethic in general.
Do you think his time will come again? Because personally, I do not, unfortunately.
I don't either, unfortunately. And that's another qualm from this because I never really thought he was going to regain the WWE Championship again until this Money in the Bank moment. And I feel like now they're trying to build towards new stars. And the fact that we only had an 8-day reign, I don't foresee it happening again. I do, however, want him to tie the record for the Intercontinental Championship, which that is very, very likely. I think that is probably going to happen in the next year or two. It should happen. So I don't think he's going to get any more WWE Championship reigns as much as I would love one. I kind of want to see him tie or break the record for the IC title, though. So that's very probable.
I believe he's one behind at the moment.
He's at 8,
to
Jericho's at 9.
Yeah. My hope was back when Jericho was still working with the WWE that we would have a 9 versus 9 match. That was my hope because I just, there's storytelling right there. You don't always need to have fancy reasons to feud other than, well, I'm a 9-time champion. Yeah, but I'm a 9-time champion. Yeah, but like neither of us have got the title right now. Well, we need to go for the title because one of us needs to be 10-time. We need to break this. I would have just enjoyed that.
It's right there against two of the best workers ever. So yeah, I mean, you don't necessarily, again, like much like Mania, a lot of their storyline bookings leading up weren't that strong, but the matches themselves were so on par yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we're going to see that tonight as well. Newman Code does say, I'm impressed by Bad Bunny because he's the best celebrity wrestler, better than Snoop Dogg and better than Snooki. Now, I missed Snooki. I wasn't watching at that time.
Okay.
Did you watch Snooki?
I did. I was 14 years old at that time. Yes, I did watch it. It was John Morrison, Trish Stratus, and Snooki versus Ziggler and Lay Cool. And the really only spot Snooki did, she did a cartwheel and then did a little frog splash onto, I want to say, Michelle. And that was really all we saw of her in the ring, though. Trish and John were pretty much carrying it. But I mean, she had that one moment. That's really all she needed to do.
And Ed's of the opinion that Bad Bunny is great, but for him, McAfee was better. And I do personally agree with that, but I think with a little bit longer, you never know. I wouldn't be too upset with the idea of a Bad Bunny versus Pat McAfee match. That's where I'm
That's what
sat at the
somebody
moment.
else said. I mean, it's right there. I think it could be really, really well, especially since Bad Bunny has proved that his work ethic and his willingness to put the work in and learn something that's new to him is there. So,
As we're talking briefly about Pat McAfee there, I do want to go up against, well, I do want to briefly mention one of the opponents that he's had, that being Adam Cole. With what happened at TakeOver, with Cole versus O'Reilly, do you think Adam Cole might be getting the call up soon?
possibly, but again, we don't. I feel like they have to bring Bobby Fish and Roderick Strong back as some, because they're still, whether or not they're on NXT right now, we're still a part of Undisputed Era. So I really want to see what their point of view and what their say is from this split. So I think we need that closure first before Adam Cole gets sent off to the main roster. I think you have to hear some input from Roderick Strong and Bobby Fish first.
I also want to ask a question about someone I see on your back wall, that being Jeff Hardy. Jeff
Oh,
Hardy's
yeah.
not going to be competing at WrestleMania this year. He hasn't been getting the rub of the green recently. Tell me your thoughts on that.
It's weird too, because I don't know if the timing was coincidental, but I was supposed to have a meet and greet with Jeff Hardy yesterday, but then I got an email on Friday saying that they rescheduled it for two and a half weeks from now. So I don't know if something's going on there, and they've been doing him really weird. You know, he was first eliminated from the men's Royal Rumble. He went a little bit further in the elimination chamber than I thought he was.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know if something's going on. I really don't know if he's injured or if he's going through some personal stuff, or maybe they just have nothing for him. But I find that really hard to believe that they have nothing for one of their most high flying guys. So I really don't know what's going on there, but the timing of everything is very odd, and his absence is really notable. Like, he wasn't even on that Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, right? He wasn't
No,
even
he
in
wasn't
that.
there.
So I think something is going on that we don't know about.
It's a very confusing situation. There's a number of people missing from the WrestleMania card, but they've tried to find ways to use them. Look at Bayley, for example. They've thrown Bayley into little sections of the show as it goes, even though she's not got a match or anything like that. That may be a response to fan reaction. It may be that was the original plan. We'll have to wait and see. But with Jeff Hardy, he just seems to have vanished a little bit.
Yeah, and again, like, we don't know if it's an injury thing or a personal thing, or I just find it really hard to believe that they have absolutely nothing, because like you said, they've had nothing for people and they've put them in battle royals. They didn't even put him in that. So I'm slightly concerned.
The idea of Jeff Hardy on creative hiatus confuses me as well. Just, you've got Jeff Hardy, who's always going to get a reaction. You can't send him out in front of a crowd. And what's he been doing? He's been in a very long feud with Sheamus.
Yeah.
They did that thing where his face was painted underneath the hat. Looked like we were going a little bit occult, and then it never happened. Looked like he was going full Bray Wyatt, and it never happened. He's been speaking in interviews about what he's looking for. He wants that feud with Bray Wyatt. He wants no more words as his theme, and nothing's actually happened. So it baffles me that they have absolutely nothing for him since at least the Intercontinental Championship match with Sami Zayn and AJ Styles.
Now you got me thinking, because I think that tonight between Bray and Randy that it's going to be the final chapter, and maybe it's just my hopes getting up, but maybe Jeff Hardy comes out at the end after Bray stands victorious and we get Jeff versus Bray finally, and it finally comes to fruition. But yeah, it's really baffling to me. I feel like there's something there that we're not aware of, because I find that really hard to believe that they didn't have anything for him unless he's injured or like some emergency is going on. So I don't know what's going on there.
We'll have to wait and see as regards that one. I'm sure we'll find out sooner rather than later, whatever it may be for that. I want to talk just briefly once more about the main event, that being Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair. There is a lot of opinions online, and some I want to pick out is from Sasha Banks fans who believe that she has never had a win at WrestleMania. She's never had a prolonged title run. She never seems to hold the championship for very long. But from where I'm sitting, I look at that smile on Sasha Banks' face, and I think she could not be happier. It wasn't long ago, 2 years, in fact, that Sasha Banks walked into, possibly 3 years. Hang on, I'm not sure. I think it was 2 years. You know exactly what I'm saying.
Yes.
That she walked in ready to lose her tag team championships, ready to walk away. There's been mention since that she handed or tried to hand in a release, and was told essentially just we'll give you some time, go away and come back. And there she was, looking like she was having the time of her life. How does that feel, seeing that?
Amazing and inspiring, because like watching her story, like hearing her talk about her wanting to leave and that Vince wouldn't let her go, or she's like, they were like, we'll give you 30 days to think about it, but it's just a testament. They believe in her and they have stuff for her and potential for her, and like just seeing her come back from something, we got to see it play out like before our eyes, and to have her come back and I feel like finally come back into her own is really, really inspiring. And I've come to respect her so much these last few years, because I used to not be a Sasha Banks fan at all, but to hear her story and see her progress these last few years has been amazing to see unfold before our eyes. And to see her in a position where, yes, she has never gotten a win at WrestleMania, but that really doesn't mean anything when she's still going to go down as one of the greatest women wrestlers, or just in general, one of the best wrestlers of all time. I feel like that is not going to take away from her legacy at all. I do get people's drawbacks from that they just finally want that one WrestleMania win. She's 0-6 now, I believe somebody said, or
Yeah.
yeah. But at the end of the day, she's still one of the best, if not the best, women's wrestler in the world right now. So I can see both sides. But seeing that yesterday, that footage, it brought a smile to my face, because yes, she lost, but it's for a greater cause, that match. Yes, it was a women's wrestling match, but there was a message to that match. And she can see that and she knows that. And I'm just glad that she is back to a place that is healthy and happy, and she's just doing her thing. You can see that.
She seemed very happy to be in a position where she wasn't the story,
Mhm.
which for that match she wasn't. She was there to play a plot point,
Mhm.
and then Bianca Belair was the showcase. What impresses me most about Sasha Banks is the innovation. You look at the fact that before fighting Ronda Rousey at the Royal Rumble 2 years ago, she went to several different training schools to add something new to her arsenal. At the time, it
Mhm.
was a tope suicida into an arm drag. She does that for every big match. The reason we've
Mhm.
seen pictures of her training with Tessa Blanchard is because she went to a new school. She learned something new to add to this match. She does it for every big match.
Mhm.
She's constantly learning, constantly growing. And for the wonderful moments when we see people complaining about someone like Keith Lee going back to the Performance Center, Sasha Banks is constantly there. And it worries me that we're looking at these wrestlers and saying that they shouldn't be constantly training, constantly learning, constantly developing. I feel it just means that they're committed to the craft, as it were. Sasha Banks is that. Sasha Banks is committed to it. She's
She's not
always
complacent,
doing more.
yeah.
Exactly. There's no complacency there. She's always trying to find a new way to entertain. Ed has asked the question, do you ever think we get the 4 horsewoman fatal 4-way, or has the time where that dream match, or has the time of that dream match passed by?
I think we definitely have to get it. Again, it all comes down to, does or will Becky Lynch, I guess it all comes down to, does Becky Lynch want to return, or is she happy and satisfied in her motherhood? I mean, she really has nothing. I mean, yes, that storyline is built in there, but she really has nothing left to prove. I mean, she was number 3 on the top 50 women's list for a reason. She's done her time, and I mean, I'd be satisfied with that career, but
Yeah.
I think she'll be back. But again, I would understand now that she's a mother if she wants to take care of her baby and focus on motherhood. But I think we should get that match. I think that is an easy WrestleMania headliner right there. And I think it's a dream match of a lot of people's.
I think the chemistry between those 4 women cannot be understated. I think
Mhm.
back to Becky Lynch versus Sasha Banks in Hell in a Cell with the
Mhm.
chair spot where it was literally a
Yeah.
chair and a load of kendo sticks setting up in the corner. That's amazing stuff. Everyone who wrestles of those 4 women, whatever combination, they put on great matches. I still haven't seen Becky Lynch versus Bayley personally. I don't know if that happened on NXT. I don't watch that religiously, but it's a match that I personally haven't seen and would love to see. As much as we're looking for a fatal 4-way, there's also a lot of fan interest in the idea of 4 horsewomen versus MMA 4 horsewomen.
Mhm.
We haven't seen Marina Shafir and Jessamine Duke for a little while. To my knowledge, they're still employed by WWE. We just haven't seen them for a while. Do you think we'll ever see that particular match?
I mean, we saw Marina in for the NXT like Women's Cup for the Women's Dusty Rhodes Classic. We saw her in that, but Jessamine we've really only seen in her online gaming, so I don't know what's going on there. I think the fact that they haven't really brought Marina and Jessamine to the forefront or even on NXT in general, I think it's very not probable because the only person we have is Shayna, and whether or not Ronda Rousey is going to be returning. So I really don't have much hope for that particular 4 horsewomen versus 4 horsewomen. I think that ship has kind of sailed because it was literally right there in 2017 when we saw Shayna Baszler for the first time. We saw that standoff, kind of the women in the crowd versus Shayna, and then and then Marina and Jessamine with her. So I think that ship has kind of sailed, unfortunately. And again, there's so many moving parts in this. Will Ronda return? Will they finally showcase Marina and Jessamine some more? I think that ship has kind of sailed, but I mean, I'd be down for it if it were to happen, but it's not something you can just rush into. You need to actually showcase Marina and Jessamine for a bit to get people more familiar with them.
Briefly, Ed wants to highlight anyone complaining about Sasha being 6-0. Remember, HBK is Mr. WrestleMania and he is 6-11 at WrestleMania. A very fair point there. Michael says, I may be extremely biased because Sasha is my favorite wrestler of all time. So yeah, fair. But I just don't think there's anyone more deserving than her to get at least one win at WrestleMania. To be fair, one win, really not that much to ask, but she does serve a greater purpose in the matches that she does. Also, we have Steve, who was joining us yesterday, saying, hey, I hope you're both doing well. Would love to see Lynch versus Bailey. Thank you very much for joining us, Steve. And for anyone who tuned in yesterday, you can, of course, follow Steve's work as well as he chases the 1,000 subs on YouTube. We have wrapped up our wrap-up of Night 1. So, Ella, would you like to tell me a little bit more about the work you're doing at the moment? What's the latest interview that you have got on your podcast?
Oh, man. One that's coming out soon or just like the latest one?
You tell me what you are working on right now.
Oh my gosh. Well, technically the latest thing I did was WrestleMania 37 predictions, but I have a few interviews already recorded right now. One is from a girl in Australia named Skylar Cruz, who's really come up. She made her debut this year, actually. So it was a great opportunity because I've only done in character interviews a few times. So it was challenging myself and for her. So I'm really excited to showcase her. And also I am sponsoring Invictus Pro Wrestling. They have an event coming up on April 24th entitled In Bloom. So I am sponsoring their women's match. So I have interviews coming up from all 3 participants in that triple threat match, talking about Riley Shepard, Vanity, known as the WrestleBay, and Vicious Vicky. So I have those lined up too and recorded as well. So those are going to be coming out. This Wednesday, you will see on SE Scoops Women's Wrestling Focus Episode 3, which I guess, spoiler alert, we're basically going to be recapping and reviewing all the women's matches from TakeOver, NXT UK, Prelude, and WrestleMania. So that is coming up. And just moving forward with GAW TV, their 50th episode is coming up this Wednesday, actually. So it's really, really exciting. And I'm going to start working with Bell to Bells soon, since once WrestleMania is over. So definitely looking forward to booking some interviews for Bell to Bells and a few other collabs. It's a lot, but I love what I'm doing.
Clearly, I do hope eventually you'll manage to find a day off, but I hope that for a lot of people in this line of work, and we never get it, do we?
No, especially not with the balancing a shoot job and then all of this. No.
If you'll just bear with me a moment, Ed has redeemed a theme change, which means you need to put on a Christmas jumper.
Okay.
God damn it, Ed. God damn it.
It's so funny.
I can only apologize.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you for this
can't
content.
You just at the moment. My headphones are out. I have regrets about ever making the choices that I have made with this Twitch channel. You spent 2,500 points. You only get like 300 an hour.
I let you be yesterday. Today you get the easiest of 3. See, we'll wait a minute before he gets his headphones back on. Ed says you're getting the easiest of the 3 today, so you should be thankful.
A pirate hat is the easiest of the 3. Come on. Well, so yeah, this is me for the rest of the Mania,
so
yeah. And to be fair, you're already Christmas themed. You have tinsel behind you.
True.
We got the whole show going. Ed, I did ban you from theme changes. We talked about this. For anyone who hasn't listened to a Wrestling Gal podcast yet, you will learn a lot about everyone interviewed. What we see there is a very relaxed conversational style that I really enjoy. It just feels like a conversation rather than those pointed interviews where people are trying to get to the questions that like their bosses have asked them to get to, and the race and the rush that you get in a lot of media. Ella takes her time. It really feels like just a conversation between two friends, and because of that, it's so much lighter, and you learn more about the person rather than just learning about, okay, what do you think of this and this? You learn about the person, and I have a lot of respect for what you're doing over there, Ella.
Well, thank you so much. That means a lot too. I'm a one woman show. So, I mean, I don't really have anybody feeding anything to me, but it's something I really try to. And I feel like my background in psychology has something to do with that because I'm all about that genuine connection and relating to people. So I love like one-on-one organic conversations. And sometimes, yes, like I can script questions, but I love those moments where it's something really spontaneous where somebody will say like a funny story or like something really witty, and then it's just really spontaneous and we connect or we find out we have something really random in common. So I definitely try to keep it that way. So I appreciate that so much.
Not a problem, not a problem. Steve, I'm not solely on Twitch right now. If I was, you would be getting some swearing. That's all I'll say. That's all I'll say. Some friendly swearing. You know the rules. If I say F you, it means I love you, but seriously.
I mean, WrestleMania is our Christmas, so, and Super Bowl. So, I mean,
very true. Very true. It's Christmas time after a fashion. That means I have to wear an ugly jumper. That's the rules. It's my rules. Oh, well, hello, Love Wrestling CA has just dropped in and bought another gift sub
hey,
for the
Spencer.
channel.
I'm assuming it's Spencer on the account. How are you?
I believe it's Spencer. I dropped in earlier on today and Spencer was hosting. But hopefully also Spencer has managed the opportunity to have a bit of a sleep recently because as is, we are knackered by the amount of stuff that we've had to cover. Hello, Spencer, and thank you very much for bringing some people with you. It hasn't told me
Congrats
there's
on
a
hitting
raid. I can only
affiliate.
assume so. Oh, that was today. Brilliant. Glad to hear it, Spencer. We've been sending a couple of raids to Spencer. He sent one to us yesterday, bought quite a few gift subs. So we are very flattered to have the attention and to drop in and bring people with you. Thank you very much, Spencer. We are, of course, Tom Collihew and Ella J. At the moment, we are together for another hour or so before we then head into the main show of WrestleMania, at which point we will separate and watch on our own devices. But a big welcome to Love Wrestling. A big thank you from Ed as well. Juggernaut97 has just dropped in and said, just wanted to stop by. Hope everyone is excited for Mania Night 2. And Ed is congratulating for affiliate status as well. As regards Mania Night 2, that is what we are moving to right now. And before we get to the individual matches, Ella, a quick question. After Night 1, does that make you more excited or a little bit more fearful that they might not be able to deliver on Night 2?
The latter. I don't think there is any way they can live up to Night 1 personally. I think it's going to be great regardless, but I think Night 1 is going to be slightly better than Night 2, but I'm still looking forward to it overall.
Let's start off by talking about the matches we haven't talked about yet. There's quite a few of them, but the match that we will be starting the show with is The Fiend versus Randy Orton. The Fiend will have Alexa Bliss in some capacity in his corner. Firstly, before we get to the actual match, what do you make of this incarnation of Alexa Bliss?
I mean, I personally love it. I'm a really big fan of Alexa, and she's evolved so much since she first started out in NXT kind of as this fairy character, and then she turned heel. And then so I think it's really it brings a new renewal, new layer to her character evolution. And so I think it's great that they're doing something with the women outside of like a title picture or something. We don't see this a lot where you see the women in like a character storyline like this. We don't see that often. So I think she's off doing her own thing, and I think she's incredible. I do think, though, that this feud needs to end tonight, and Randy and Bray need to go their separate ways so we can see somebody new for each of them. I think they have kind of done all that they can do within this like paranormal horror thing they're doing. I don't know what else they could possibly do.
Just before I move on to the next question, I do have to send another massive thank you out to Love Wrestling CA. Thank you very much, Spencer. And of course, all the team over there who've just got another 5 tier 1 subs and spent them. Thank you very much. Very, very grateful for that. I don't know if you're particularly familiar with Twitch, Ella, and the general work there.
I'm subscribed to a lot of Twitch people. I don't know how it works to be a streamer, but I frequently watch Twitch. So...
Well, essentially, that is incredibly rewarding for me personally.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, Love Wrestling CA. Also increases my subscriber points and let me have more emotes. I only have one emote at the moment, and it is terrible. It is absolutely awful. It is the worst thing because I had to make it myself, and I'm not artistic at all. So big thank you to Love Wrestling for that, and thank you very much for dropping in. Oh God. Well, there's our emote. It's Vince McMahon watching, just watching, because apparently he watches the stream.
I mean, you never know.
Oh no, we know for certain. He definitely watches. Sure. Continuing on about Randy Orton and The Fiend, this has been building for
6 months.
6 months, and since October, I think it was, when the draft happened.
Yeah.
Hopefully, this will be the end of it. Personally, in my prediction, I don't think it will. I believe there's a cinematic match still to come with these two, and I just think they're not going to do it in front of fans. So I suspect that Bray Wyatt will be winning this one due to an Alexa Bliss distraction. Randy Orton will spend the next month trying to RKO Alexa Bliss essentially out of existence, and then get the one-on-one match cinematic and Money in the Bank. That's my opinion on this, but it does mean we are then going 7 months. Ella, who do you think is winning this match?
It has to be Bray, but at the same time, they cannot have Randy looking weak like he did last month against Alexa Bliss. On paper, I mean, that was a pretty cool moment, but if they're gonna end this, they can't have Randy. They can't have it like be like only a few minutes. It needs to be like more worthwhile. I think Randy is definitely going to RKO Alexa, or at least attempt to. I don't know really. I'm shocked that there's no stipulation on this match. That's the thing that like I'm not getting. So Randy Orton has to find some way to combat and counter the Alexa Bliss threat there. So I don't know what's going to happen. I think for sure Bray needs to go over here because he did just come back after being buried alive. I'm worried though that his getup, his costume or gear, whatever, because it reminds me a little bit of the Mummy. And I said this earlier today that I'm worried that like pieces are gonna fall off or something because it reminds me of like just a mummy. So I'm more worried about him lasting long in his getup. Like he's gonna be like sweating to death inside. So I could also see it being very short. Just for that reason, you don't want to wind him out too much, especially under all of that. But I'm looking forward to their entrances, and I think it should be concluded tonight. And then Randy can do his own thing, and then we get somebody new with Bray, maybe like a Braun Strowman, who he has history with. But I can see your side, though, where you don't see this ending because you need to get that cinematic feature in there. I can see that happening, too. But I think for sure we're in agreement that Bray is going over here.
We are in agreement on that one. When it comes to these particular two, they have wrestled at WrestleMania before.
Yeah.
Bray Wyatt's first championship reign. I still own the Era of Wyatt t-shirt. Randy Orton going over there after the mat was covered in maggots and leeches. And
oh my God, that's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
I know we all try to not remember that, but that's my nightmare scenario right there. Just being laid on the ring and then maggots and bugs crawling everywhere. Sorry.
I might have to turn away for that. I can't do it again.
That's fair. This particular match is really hamstrung by the attire, not just because, and the way I look at it, he looks like he's barbecued a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, and that's how his getup is. But also there's a mobility question, and what if it's raining? What if he has to walk down the ramp in a torrential downpour, as is currently ongoing, apparently, based on weather reports? He gets to the ring and just squelching along in his boots. You can literally hear it because they mic up underneath the ring, and you just see the puddle spread across the mat. That could work if Michael Cole's really, really quick on the uptake. I think it's more going to be a case of Corey Graves laughing so hard he can't concentrate. And of course, Randy Orton trying to get an RKO and just falling everywhere.
Was this confirmed as the opening match too?
WWE have confirmed that this will be the match that opens. Okay. I believe it was Randy Orton confirming on the bump that this will do
Interesting choice. I really thought Sammy and Kevin would be opening. Interesting choice.
I would have thought so as well. Maybe Logan Paul has somewhere else to be. You never can tell. It's just one of those. I really do think this feud's gone on far too long. And my concern here is that afterwards, where does Bray actually go? Bray Wyatt lives in his own universe, as it were, the Brayniverse, whatever you want to call it. And he really has to have specific opponents to work with him. The Undertaker is certainly one who could, but I think that ship has sailed. Aleister Black would have worked. That ship seems to have sailed. So Jeff Hardy, if he goes full Willow, that works for me. But after Randy Orton, can you see this version of The Fiend going up against Ricochet? Can you see this version of The Fiend going up against Drew McIntyre? Can you see much of anything really next for this version of The Fiend? Who do you think he goes to next after this?
I think, like I said before, I can totally see like Braun Strowman, because they have that history there now that Braun is kind of finally back to plausibly being that monster among men, that nasty, like, then again, I guess he'd be the face in this scenario. So, but basically he's back to being that tough, fierce guy. Hopefully that Shane feud is over. So you have that built-in history between Bray and Braun. So I think Braun Strowman would be your perfect guide to move forward with in this, honestly.
Love Wrestling does want to say something. Want to throw a huge shout to Ella, a great human, which is always a wondrous, most wondrous compliment in the world. Didn't know you'd be on the stream tonight, so I got a huge surprise pop tuning in. I do imagine you, Spencer, literally just bursting into applause as you sat at your computer, and I very much enjoying that image.
Thank you, Spencer. I am talking to Spencer in a few days. We're going to try and figure out doing something, working together. So that'll be fun. I'm excited for that.
I look forward to tuning into that and checking it out.
That's exactly what happened. He said, that's funny.
Matt says, according to Fightful Select, thank you very much, Matt, for sourcing. The call time for WrestleMania is being pushed back for talent. Start time is still the same, and the shows will begin at 8 p.m. sharp as scheduled. Now, obviously, there is still an ongoing situation there. The weather is expected to be dying down around now. We'll have to wait and see as to what actually happens. Ella, can I ask you, did the half-hour delay at the beginning of yesterday's WrestleMania Night 1, did that really affect things for you, or did it build anticipation?
I mean, I was on a watch along yesterday, so I had other things. We were just kind of chatting about it. And I mean, I think they did the best they could. They improvised and let people cut promos and do some good behind the scenes character work, like behind stage. Like you got to see Seth Rollins cackle for 2 minutes.
Oh, that was so good.
I think it was with Kayla. So I mean, they improvised well. They did what they could. I mean, it didn't really take away. I was just more worried about matches getting cut or time being really short. So I was really stressed about that. But I think for the most part, they improvised really well last night. It was like a 40-minute delay. So
yeah, for the 40-minute half-hour delay, it was they couldn't have predicted and planned ahead too much. So I think they went to the right people. They went to Miz and Morrison, who the Miz can just give a lesson in ad-lib, as it were. They went to Kevin Owens, who really took his time with it. Mm-hmm. They went to Braun Strowman, not really known for his promos, and even though he was a little bit rushed for me, I still feel he hit the major points very well, didn't repeat himself, didn't flub his lines, and actually delivered really strongly. And of course, Seth Rollins just looked like he was having the time of his life. And I also have to give a quick shout out to Drew McIntyre, who in the beginning of his interview literally just moved the interviewee to the other side. I believe it was Sarah. Just moved her to the other side just to clear the shot. Okay, this is how we do the block. Just so we're all good. And I just like that when they call things on the spot. I always think back to local shows to me where you hear them just under their breath saying to an interviewer, "Hard comes that way." Just very quickly, hard comes over there, mate. Why we're looking over here. We've got to go that way. And just little things like that for me. Michael says the pre-show has started and it's not raining at the moment. Hopefully it'll stay that way. Fingers crossed that WrestleMania gets going as we expected to. Sorry, missed that one. Missed a message. Steve says WWE consistently show they can deliver when their backs are against the wall. The show must go on. Unscripted promos were a lot of fun and show great character work, and time really flew waiting. I completely agree.
It did.
Honestly, for me, night one flew entirely. This is now day 7 of a 9-day watch-along marathon. And it's been very beneficial Twitch-wise. It's been very beneficial growth-wise. But it's been very bad sleep-wise, as I'm sure you might expect. I'm over here in the UK. It is currently 12 minutes past midnight. WrestleMania finished at around 5 a.m. yesterday. SmackDown yesterday, I was exhausted. My energy levels were down. Then it's WrestleMania. And you're hearing fans. And we haven't heard fans on WWE for so long. The energy levels just come back for me. How did you feel having fans back?
I thought it was really great in not hearing the piped in and pre-recorded crowd noises. Like it gave like people were cheering for Omos. I think if the crowd wasn't there, they would have obviously the piped in booing and stuff. So it gave the crowd a voice back that we've been desperately wanting back. And it gave the performance people to feed off of like actual crowds. So I think it was a great benefit as long as everybody's being safe. I think the number was fair. And it was just great to see and hear people in the crowd, honestly, like way better than those piped in noises. And the reactions were more genuine and organic rather than the pre-recorded booing and like, this is awesome, blah, blah, blah. You know, it was genuine.
I do like seeing that certain things that the WWE are clearly trying to train us into actually worked. The 3-2-1 on Drew McIntyre. I will wait and see if we get "you suck" chants for Roman. I don't believe we're going to see that. But I do love the fact that we got a big cheer for Bobby Lashley.
Yeah.
Do you disagree when it comes to Roman?
What do you mean by that?
Do you believe Roman Reigns will get cheered or booed tonight?
From what I've seen, people have been perceiving his heel work really well, and he's come a long way from years ago. And, you know, his story coming back after being out last year with his story with leukemia and then with COVID wanting to be safe and protect himself. I think people have more respect for him because of his story now. And they've actually been enjoying his heel work. Whereas when he was face many years ago, it felt like, at least through my perception, that some people perceived it as him being shoved down our throats to now where he's heel, where you don't necessarily have to cheer him. It's making people want to cheer him even more, if that makes even sense. So I think it'll be a good 50-50. It won't be a total boo. I think it'll be a good 50-50 because people respect him more.
I think in standard Roman Reigns style, I think it'll be a lot of different reactions, but I think it'll be loud.
Yeah, oh, that's for sure. Always getting loud reactions for sure.
Let's go back to our predictions on this one. We want to talk about Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn with Logan Paul in Sami Zayn's corner. This, I agree with you, Ella. I did expect this to be the opener of the night, but instead we've got The Fiend and Randy Orton. So when it comes to this, I've been a fan of this particular feud for essentially the entirety of it. Kevin Owens seems to always come off the better. Logan Paul, for me, isn't adding too much, but he's not trying to. It's quite a subtle addition from where I'm sitting. What do you think of the build to this match? Because it only really started being built a month ago, just before Fastlane.
I mean, again, it's not the only feud that's only been built in the last like 2, 3, 4 weeks. I feel like it's been beneficial though that there's always that built-in storyline, so they didn't have to do as much. You know, they have that history going on for over 10 years now. So I'm excited. I think Sami Zayn has been doing incredible stuff. Kevin Owens needs to go over here though to feed into Sami Zayn's conspiracy theory, like everybody's against me thing. So Kevin needs to go over here to feed into Sami Zayn's entertainment and his whole gimmick thing right now. So and plus I think Kevin needs to capitalize and jump off of that pirate ship. I think everybody is looking forward to that and anticipating that. So I think the build's been okay, but I think everybody's more looking forward to the match on this one because it's going to be incredible all around.
These two never put on bad matches. I don't think it's in their DNA, especially together.
No.
Ed has put on, if KO doesn't stun Logan, I will be furious. I don't think it's happening, Ed.
Point.
I don't think it's happening. I think by the end of the night, Logan Paul will have done the full Mike Tyson at WrestleMania 14, have essentially changed allegiances and knocked out Sami Zayn. Personally, I think Kevin Owens will be winning this one, even though he has the greater record against Sami Zayn. Who do you have winning?
Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens has to win here. We've seen him lose at the Royal Rumble, and then he hasn't been. Then again, Sami Zayn's not been winning either, but Kevin Owens has to go over here, like I said, to feed into Sami Zayn's conspiracy theories right now that everybody is against him and that it was fixed or something. They can work that angle. So Kevin Owens needs to go over here.
How do you think Logan Paul's going to be involved?
I don't know. Maybe Logan Paul somehow turns on Sami Zayn, or I think Logan Paul's probably just there to maybe wreak a stunner from Kevin Owens, or oh man, or like Kevin tries to jump off the pirate ship like onto Logan Paul, but then he pushes Sami in the way or something. Something sneaky is going to happen here with Logan Paul, but I don't think Logan Paul is going to go unscathed.
Do you think Kevin Owens is going to jump off that parachute? Because it's quite big and it's quite high.
Well, if he doesn't, he's definitely going to be jumping off of something because it's WrestleMania and that is a Kevin Owens staple. He's got to do something crazy. So I'm really excited for this. I don't think you can go wrong.
Very true. Like I said, these two do not deliver bad matches. So we know we're going to get quality here. We know we're going to get a 15, 20-minute war between two people who are naturally high rhythm, high tempo, great chemistry. This, for me, could be the best match that they have on the card. But to be fair, we also have a main event ahead of us and a Raw Women's Championship match that could well deliver as well. Let's talk briefly about the United States Championship. Matt Riddle is the current champion. He will be taking on Sheamus. Sheamus is on a bit of a losing streak, but he has been going up against the top names on Raw in Bobby Lashley and, of course, Drew McIntyre. Riddle is on a winning streak, but he did escape with the championship from Bobby Lashley, and he's defeating people sort of a bit more on his level. Who do you have for this one?
Now, up until this morning, where I was on another show, I was fully convinced that Matt Riddle would be retaining here. However, somebody made a good point that Keith Lee is supposed to be returning this week. And Keith Lee has some beef with Sheamus now. And Keith Lee was supposed to win that United States Championship at Elimination Chamber, I believe it was, before he was taking off of the card. So I could see Sheamus winning here possibly if they want to have like a Sheamus-Keith Lee feud. So I can see that happening. So I'm still skewed to Matt Riddle retaining here, but I want Sheamus to win. And I mean, the storyline is there with Keith Lee. So I mean, up until today, I was really fully convinced that a Riddle was going to retain. However, I can see the case for Sheamus winning here, especially he's been losing so much lately. But again, I don't want to see a title change hands. It's only been like a month and a half. I don't want to see a title change hands too soon. So I can see the case for both, but I'm still leaning towards Riddle retaining here, just knowing WWE.
I think you raise a good point about Keith Lee. He is returning tonight in a watch-along, one of the WWE-sponsored watch-alongs, but I can't remember which one, to be completely honest. So at least we know he's cleared in some way. We don't exactly know where he's been, as it were. We don't have full details, and I'm not really one to sit here and speculate. So when he does return, it seems to me like the most logical approach is Sheamus versus Keith Lee. They seem to have teased the idea of Sheamus being face or heel and then back again quite a few times, particularly in a certain respect for Drew McIntyre. But I do agree. It seems as though Matt Riddle looked into a championship. I think he's done very well with it. But at the same time, I think they'll course correct here. Give it to Sheamus and then move on to Sheamus versus Keith Lee going forwards. WrestleMania is not just about ending storylines. It's the beginning of many others. WrestleMania is a new season, the new year, as it were, for wrestling and WWE particularly. So I do think logically we are looking at a win for Sheamus long-term, building towards Keith Lee. I also think really the big push that was suggested and rumored for Keith Lee, for me, that hasn't really happened. There's also been talk of a push that was going to happen for Matt Riddle, and I think he's been sort of just a body in the mix at times. So we'll wait and see what actually happens with the two of them. I think Sheamus versus Keith Lee could be a good jumping off point for a much stronger push. And I think really it shows the United States Championship might be in good hands because Bobby Lashley did great things with that belt because he was so well protected. Keith Lee and Sheamus, I think, could do great things as well.
I hope so. I think Keith Lee's scheduled to come back this week, but again, we don't know. But him being on the watch along is a good sign.
A very good sign, yeah. For the Intercontinental Championship, Big E will be defending against Apollo Crews. My opinion here is that Apollo Crews will be taking it. However, at the same time, that is kind of because I think we're going to see a shake-up. And I think Big E has not really gotten, again, the push that we may have been looking at. And I think maybe he may be returning to the New Day, or at least I hope so, because the amount of times we've seen Xavier Woods backstage. Do you remember when he had the board and it was like, we miss Big E? For real, though. It feels strange not seeing them together. And I want Big E to get the big push, but so far, it hasn't really manifested for me. Who do you have for this match? And more importantly, do you have any inside track on what the hell a Nigerian drum fight is?
I have an idea on what it was. The only thing I can think of is like either one, it's just going to be a glorified street fight where you can use a Nigerian drum, or maybe you have to win by getting your opponent's head through a drum. Like, I think that would be really, really funny. But I think the more logical thing is that it's just going to be a glorified street fight and you can use your Nigerian drums or whatever. Um, my opinions this weekend keep changing because, again, I really thought, again, they need to protect Apollo Crews, especially, he lost at the last pay-per-view where it was this weird double pin thing, but then he got his comeuppance by beating down Big E. You got me thinking, though, about the shakeup. I think they have to protect either one. If they want bigger things for Big E, then let Apollo capitalize on his newly turned heel character and showcase his strength and dominance now as a staple heel on SmackDown by giving him the IC title. Sure. But you also can't make Big E look weak in this. But if they have bigger plans for him, like the WWE Championship or Universal Championship run, then have him lose, then have him go on for greater things, much like they did with Bobby Lashley. They had him lose the United States Championship so he could go on to bigger things with the WWE Championship. It's really hard because I don't want Big E's momentum to stop, but also you can't afford to have Apollo Crews look weak and lose. So it's really this one and the main event are real toss-ups for me. But I still think I'm going to stick with Big E retaining here. And then I still think I'm going to stick with Big E retaining here. Again, as long as they don't look Apollo look weak and losing, I think he'll be okay.
I think there's a lot of ways to play this. The fact that they have the Nigerian drum fight gives them literally everything that they could possibly do. It's very possible. We've seen Apollo Crews has backup now, but we haven't really seen them since.
Yeah.
He had two people with him. The fact that there are two people suggests to me that we may see a reunion of the New Day. And Apollo Crews gets backup, so the New Day back up Big E. That's something that could happen. But at the same time, I'm just going to go completely wild here and say something I did mention in the preview. I would love it if they just completely suspend disbelief entirely and essentially go full musical. And they start with the smaller drums. Like they have a competitive bongo drum fight. Then they go for the Irish Balfa. And then before you know it, they're doing full-on drum kits with their cymbals and snares, going full-on drum solos. And at the end of it, Big E just stands up, shakes Apollo Crews' hand, hands in the title and says, yeah, you were better. I don't know why.
Or lead it up to the crowd to decide. Then again, they'll be skewed. Or they have judges, because I think if they leave it up to the crowd, obviously Big E's winning, or they have judges or something. That'd be really funny.
I would very much enjoy that. It seems like a magnificently ridiculous concept. Oh, Edda's 89 is here and he has just redeemed a theme change. So we're going pirate. I can only apologize, Ella. I need a moment again.
Yes. Thank you for the theme
pirate.
change. I'm excited.
Okay, I'll be right back. One sec.
What's up, guys? While Tom can't hear me, what's up? What's the tea? I'm excited. I know nothing about being a Twitch streamer. I only know watching stuff. So I'm excited to see what he's going to do here. Wrestlemania theme right here. I'm here to mess with Tom. Thank you, Edders. We also have fancy pants.
We do. We do have fancy pants. Ed, what are you doing?
Yes, do the trifecta. Do it. I forget what the third option is, but do it.
It's fancy pants. Fancy pants is the third option. I
okay.
Still have my tie somewhere around it.
Do it.
I have a lot of props. I literally have to wear the pirate hat and the little wooden sword now.
I love that. I mean, it's on point though for tonight. So
it is. It's very thematic. I am currently in StreamYard. So, oh god, we've got two. Edders and Ed have both redeemed fancy pants.
Oh yeah.
I have to make a quick change again. Double fancy pants. Yeah. Oh, I've got to... Okay.
I have no choice.
Do you mind taking over for just one moment?
Yeah.
I will be right back.
I will refund.
Thank you, Ed. Yeah, we don't double. He'll get his points back. Thank you, Ed. I'll be back in just a moment. Ella, you are in charge. I'll be right back.
Oh, that's so funny. What match are you guys most looking forward to tonight? It's really a toss-up for me. I think I'm most looking forward, though, to the main event because I can see it going either way. But also, don't sleep on Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. What are you guys most looking forward to? I'm still new to this whole live thing. That's so funny. In ring wise, Asuka versus Rhea. I'm excited for Oscar versus Rhea. I think if they give them enough time, which they should, that could potentially be like dark horse match of the night. I'm excited for that moment too. Yeah, Biggie versus Apollo is interesting too, though, because we don't really know what's going to happen with this match stipulation. So it could really go any way. We're definitely going to be surprised with that.
I
Okay,
made the mistake of not having enough time to put on a proper shirt, so it's a black t-shirt with a tie, so you can still see some neck. I mean, that's going to have to do. You have fancy pants. This is what you wanted. This is what you all wanted. How dare you?
It was because of me, so you can blame me. They're just doing what I told them to do.
I am of the opinion that I should blame everyone, everyone that you possibly could blame. That's where I'm heading with this. That's where I'm heading with this. But I think that the blame will go firmly into Edda's position. And we've got more. We've got a little bit more, right?
Yeah,
okay.
They can't screw up night 2. Night 1 was so amazing. I just feel like night 1 was so amazing that my expectations are already lowered, but I also don't want it to be a dud.
What you're not seeing, because we're watching this in StreamYard rather than in Twitch, is that's actually a redemption as well. And I was hoping we wouldn't get redemptions of this ilk, but here we are. I now have to go to promo on Vince McMahon.
Okay.
Which is why we have the Vinces in the chat. I'm now suddenly very flustered by this, but here we go. I have to do a usual Vince McMahon thing. It has a beginning and an end, and I'm cutting a promo, and it'll be a little while. So I only apologize for this. Matt has redeemed a promo for a telling off of Vince McMahon, saying, "Don't screw up night 2. Mania 1 was fantastic." So here we go. Here we go. Vince is in the chat, if you will. Ed giving us some Vinces. Jade have given us some Vinces. He's watching. He's watching now. He's watching. Vince, I know you're watching. And you know what? WrestleMania was good, but it's only half done. We enjoyed it, but it's only half done. And there is still so much that you could get wrong. So much. This is why you have booking teams. This is why you have people in your ear, people in your corner. This is why you watch this stream. This is why you're watching LJ right now. So that we can tell you not to mess it up. Just in case you're starting to think, maybe I should do this, or maybe this is wrong. Just stay the course. It started so well. Don't screw it up. Don't get it wrong. Because if you do, we'll all be telling you, bad Vince. And that's our telling off of Vince McMahon. There was also a summoning of Shane, which again, we have an explanation of this. We have an explanation of this.
Misfit Gamer, that's funny.
Our explanation of this is that the chat refuses to apologize for Shane McMahon, even though we are entirely guilty for Shane McMahon. Please do not use your channel points to summon Shane McMahon, as if that happens 3 times, you will summon Shane McMahon. For us, Shane McMahon is Beetlejuice. And we literally randomly summoned him one day. We were talking about him in the chat, and then he appeared on Raw. And since then, every week we've done 3 summons. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Be sorry, this is hilarious.
So our first summon for Shane McMahon has to be free for him to appear on the night. Please beware. But here comes the money. The best in the world. Shane McMahon, that is one. I apologize for dragging you into this.
I'm enjoying it. You're welcome, everybody. I'm kidding.
So yes, you now have me in a suit. I am going to sweat during the entirety of WrestleMania because this has to be neutralized by the chat. No, Ed, God damn it. This is not that.
I want you to wear
Ed
the pirate hat and the suit.
I mean, we could do that. That could be a thing. That could be a thing. I like to make the chat happy. What can I say? Yeah, there has been a redemption of a What Does The Rock Say? Which is when the props come out. Now, before we continue, a brief display of the props at our disposal. Before I get to the one that I'm very embarrassed about, a quick display of the props at our disposal. We have several posters. Which at some point are going to go here. We have pictures of Darth Vader that make up Darth Vader.
Okay.
I don't know why. I don't know why. We have The Undertaker. I got that at a car boot about 20 years ago. We have Kane. And we also have, when I get to the last one, all of the Pokemon. All of the Pokemon. We also have a giant cow. Yep. We have a red panda, which I got from my niece, and then she didn't want it. So it's mine now. We have, in the pirate theme, we have a treasure map where you apparently hang your keys.
Interesting.
And with the redemption of What Does the Rock Say, we have the 500-piece jigsaw of the Rock, which I essentially hide behind and talk about things that the Rock would say. Now, Ed, you've gone for the greatness of LJ. You want me to be the Rock and talk about the greatness of LJ. However, it's the Rock, and he never says what you want him to say, and it's the Rock, so it almost always ends with something going up someone's arse. So
It doesn't matter.
I'm not going to do it. So I'm not going to do that one, Ed. You can redeem your own points. We're just going to leave that one, and just leave that one there because it's undoubtedly going to end up being very rude and very wrong because it's The Rock, and that's sort of the character that we've established. It's not one for guests. Anyway,
Tom's like, I'm quitting Twitch now.
I may be quitting Twitch now. I just want you all to know that I hate you. I just want you all to know that.
I love you all. Don't listen to him. This is my show now.
Oh, you've taken over. This is the LJ takeover, is it? I'm sorry. Do you want the jigsaw? Is that what we're saying?
And talk about the greatness of myself? Sure.
Go ahead. You be the Rock. Okay, I'll put the jigsaw up, and you just put a Rock voice on and talk about how great you are. You talk about yourself. Talk about yourself as the most electrifying. Go for it.
I feel like I have to have a guitar, and I don't have one.
Mine doesn't have strings, so I can't use that right now.
Fair enough.
I don't want to explain why. I've had to explain jigsaws today.
Tom, we love you. Ed says he loves you.
Yeah, Ed. I can't swear right now.
Crash Pat has been moved behind the set near the big pirate ship. See, Kevin Owens is going to go off of that pirate ship. Thank you, Misfit Gamer, because I haven't been on Twitter in like 2 hours.
Yeah, that's one of the best things about the community here on Twitch. Matt is really on the ball as well. People bring stuff in because they know I'm on and I cannot go on Twitter while I'm streaming. GT to entertain, also, fun. If the crash pad has been moved there, according to a report from Fightful Select, thank you again, Matt, for sourcing, then yeah, it seems pretty clear that Kevin Owens is going to jump off something. Because, Shane McMahon was on night one, and here we go. J-Dub says, I think it's adorable that you thought this would run smoothly and that nobody would redeem anything. Do you remember yesterday we had 2 hours with Steve and nobody redeemed a damn thing? Do you remember that? Do you remember? I should have turned them off. Can't believe you did everything. Right. Okay. We're back on track. We're talking about wrestling again. That's what we're doing. Okay. Hang on. I've got to... Okay, all is well. There's no more redemptions. I can't tell in StreamYard. I have to go to the other one to see.
Yeah.
Ed said the reason it didn't happen yesterday was because he was shopping for furniture. Yeah, well, you've started a landslide here. How dare you?
Thank you, Ed.
Matt is saying, I really hope Code Orange is performing the Fiend's theme live. Were they the ones who said that they were? I know that there was someone who confirmed on Instagram that they were performing for the Fiend's entrance. I just don't know who's doing the singing, so let me know if that is the case. Also, a little fact from Matt, which takes us to our next point. Tonight will be Asuka's first title defense on pay-per-view since September 2020 Clash of Champions versus Zelina Vega. Zelina Vega, of course, no longer with the company. That's the
See, I heard it was November of 2020. Then again, I don't even know anymore.
September was the last time on pay-per-view. November.
Oh, pay-per-view. Yeah. Okay.
We've run through this one a couple of times when we go through it. We do trivia sometimes.
Got you.
And things like that. Well, we clarify things, but that leads us nicely into our next match for predictions. That being Asuka defending the Raw Women's Championship against Rhea Ripley, who is sort of debuting again. just sort of re-debuting. Quickly, J-Dub throwing in the chat. Breaking news, Weird Al is performing the Fiend entrance during tonight's show. I do not want to put this past them. Don't give them ideas, J-Dub. Also, welcome to the show, J-Dub. Who do you think is winning between Asuka and Rhea Ripley? And do you think it's a good idea for her to return at WrestleMania after what happened last time when she vanished completely from the main roster after taking the loss to Charlotte Flair?
I have hope for this year because I really believe it is Rhea Ripley's time for redemption from last year's WrestleMania. And especially, don't know if it's true or not, but nobody knows the status of Asuka's health. So if she needs to take time off to take care of her health or concussion or some injury, now is the perfect time to do so. Winner between, true. That is true, J-Dub. I think Rhea Ripley is going to go over here though. Mainly because I think I wanted to. I want redemption from last year. But again, if Rhea does go over here and Asuka does go away, you have nobody else right now. Again, dependent on the women's tag team titles. There, people have been saying Becky's going to return, Ronda's going to return, but I'm excited for this. I think it is a good chance for redemption for Rhea Ripley. However, it does feel like a Plan C match because everybody knows Lacey Evans was supposed to be the Raw Women's Champion. Then she got pregnant. Then there was rumblings of Charlotte versus Asuka 2.0 at Mania. That obviously didn't happen. And so I think they were like, oh, we got Rhea Ripley here now. And after not knowing what to do with her, and then the build to this is just so lackluster. But I think it's going to be a spectacular match because they're so very talented. And I want justice for Rhea Ripley. As much as I love Charlotte, I want justice for Rhea Ripley tonight.
I really did want Rhea Ripley to beat Charlotte Flair last year. I felt it was everything you needed. It would have put over NXT huge. It would have been a huge moment to really embrace Rhea Ripley. There was so much going on that could definitely work in their favor. Rhea Ripley is a clear backup option as regards, but I don't think anyone's going to be particularly upset with the idea of Rhea Ripley as champion. At the same time, her being a heel sort of confuses me. Not necessarily because I disagree with the idea of her being a heel, but if she wins, her options for opponents other than Asuka is Nia Jax, who's a heel, Shayna Baszler, who is a heel, and then that's pretty much it because Charlotte's unavailable and heel face, we're not entirely sure. Lacey Evans is unavailable as a heel. So who has she got? We've talked briefly about Shake Up and Bayley. Bayley's a heel. So we don't have many face women at the moment, do we?
Either one, Charlotte's got to come back, or we're getting Becky Lynch. That's unless we finally get Naomi, who is a very viable opponent for her. Naomi's there, but again, unless we are getting Charlotte back or Becky back. So there's a lot of potential here, a lot of like unpredictability with the future of the Raw Women's Division riding on this matchup too.
Definitely. And Ed does say Peyton Royce could be a face. She could be. However, I think a clean loss to Asuka and a lot of time off TV have diminished that style a little bit. It's not something I'm happy with, but it is where we are. Mm-hmm. I was really hoping maybe for the tag team turmoil, instead of Carmella and Billie Kay, we would see Carmella and Bayley announced.
Yeah, I was looking forward to Baymella too. I thought that they could have a run, but I mean, I was happy with Bayley doing her thing. She's great on the mic and hilarious. So I hope they continue that tonight.
My hope then at the end of that would be that there would be an additional team, Billie Kay having finally found a partner, reunite the Iconics, and go on a run to win the tag titles at WrestleMania again. But here we are. It's here we are. Ed says, Lana? Do you like the idea of Lana versus Rhea Ripley? Personally, I feel very sorry for Lana because Rhea Ripley would eat her alive.
Yeah, it's just not like something I'm invested in because you already know how it's going to play out. You know, I mean, we did see Lana win at Survivor Series, but a title wasn't on the line. You know, whenever like a women's championship is on the line, it wouldn't be a believable storyline for me. Yes, Lana would probably fight valiantly, but maybe she is 2021 Miss Money in the Bank. That's probable, but will they actually have her successfully cashing in? That's to be determined.
I do think Lana has improved dramatically over
Oh,
the
for
last few
sure.
years. There's a number of people who have been constantly improving and really showed what they can do. I think back to when the Women's Tag Team Championships debuted in the Elimination Chamber. We
Mhm.
finally got to really see how good Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville were. They
Yeah.
finally got time to showcase themselves. It's much the same as Matt says here on the other direction. Naomi's team was eliminated very quickly last night. I don't think WWE sees her the way fans do. There is evidence supporting that, and it's not a good thing, but WWE seems to push Naomi for the first half of the year and then forget her. That's happened for the last 2 or 3 years. They seem to do so with Tamina as well. She vanishes for the second half of the year. It can't always be for the big Royal Rumble pop, but whenever she does return at the Royal Rumble, fans are really behind her
Mhm.
because they know what she can do, they know what she can deliver, and here we are at this point with them being eliminated quite quickly. Now, Naomi and Lana have been featured quite strongly in the build-up in the last few weeks. TV time for me is the showing of faith from the WWE rather than any particular storyline thing, because you look at Peyton Royce, and she's been on TV once in the past 3 months, something like that. It's
I
not
think
often
so.
enough.
Mhm.
Steve suggests that Nikki Cross deserves a push and a chance, in my opinion. That is a good idea. Nikki Cross is a face, at least was at last time of asking, and I do think Nikki Cross could, at least with her archaic, not archaic, chaotic style, could stand up to a Rhea Ripley in that regard. Is there anyone you can think of who you would like to line up against Rhea Ripley?
Think it's improbable, but anybody who knows me, I mean, Mickey James is in town for the weekend, and I mean, she's a legend, so like, why not? That's a dream matchup of mine. I mean, that's a good one paper. They never push her for longer than a pay-per-view or two. So I mean, that's a good one-off, especially gives people like Charlotte or maybe Becky or Asuka more time to recover from time off. So even if it is a one-off or a two-off, I mean, Mickey James is in town for the weekend for 2K22. So I mean, she's right there. She had her gear on last night.
I see no reason not to do that. You're exactly right. They never pushed Mickey James for very long. I think the last major feud was against Alexa Bliss. She could have
Yeah.
promo after that about keeping working and keeping going, and then she just sort of faded into the background.
Mhm.
I'm so confused by this, but at the same time, me personally, I think I really want them to just let Mickey James have hardcore country as their entrance theme. I want them to give her
I know
hardcore
she'd
country
love
back.
that too.
It's it's one of those. They never focus on the
Mhm.
range of talent she has. They always focus on, okay, she can do this in the ring. Oh, Royal Rumble's here. Let's put her with Trish.
Yeah.
It's repetitive and it's somewhat nauseating when you see that you have people that talented who are just never given the opportunity to show what they can do. And that's true of a lot recently, unfortunately. Just quickly, Reese says, just so I got gifted a sub, and as Ed points out, it was indeed Love Wrestling gifting 5 subs, in fact 6 subs, since they have joined us here. I'm hoping I haven't missed any. So yeah,
Oh
that's how
my
you got one,
god.
Reese. What's caught your eye there?
Brock Lesnar and Rhea Ripley. Please no. Please no.
Really? Because are you a fan of intergender wrestling at all? Do you want to see more of it in WWE?
I
Would you rather
am.
not?
I'm just not a fan of Brock Lesnar.
Okay. For a long while now, I've loved the idea of seeing Rhea Ripley and Drew McIntyre.
I'd be
I
into
honestly
that.
think I honestly think they'd have incredible in-ring chemistry and their styles would mesh together really well. But every time I mention it, people get very confused by the idea. I just think I like the idea of Rhea Ripley bodily picking up Drew McIntyre and powerbombing him. What's so bad about that?
I
You know,
mean,
she could
they're
do it.
both jacked. Yeah, they definitely have
Absolutely.
the strength feature. I would love to see Drew McIntyre, not so much but Brock Lesnar.
During NXT UK takeover in Cardiff, I went to both nights because they did a taping the next day and I had interviews for the beginning of the next one. And when I came in for the interviews on the second day, it was about 7 hours before call time. It was early morning, it was 10 a.m. And I see a Rhea Ripley in full wrestling gear going over to get a coffee in that gear she wrestles in, just with someone from PR. And I just had a moment like, Jesus Christ, this is exactly who Rhea Ripley is. And that's the thing. You look at the Mae Young Classics. The first one, you see Rhea Ripley versus Dakota Kai. That was my personal favorite match. I know there's a lot behind Kairi Sane and Bianca Belair, also an incredible match. But for me, just the constant kicks and back and forth between Ripley and Dakota Kai, that was it for me. I was a fan of Dakota Kai back when she was wrestling in Japan as Evie. And I essentially watched the Mae Young Classic to see her in action, really got behind Rhea Ripley. And then the next year, completely different person, because she's gone away and she said, can I present myself? And she has. That is exactly who she is. For me, that's how you succeed in wrestling. You know yourself and you show yourself as you really are. That's how you can change and evolve instead of playing through 15 different characters. I just want to highlight, love wrestling here, saying have to take off and prep for a stream. Friends, see you soon. Doing another post show tonight. We'll be sure to raid people.
Thank you,
raid
Spencer.
and send you people there. Thank you very much for joining us, Spencer. We'll see you very, very soon. Okay, Matt just says seems to be getting darker. We are very close to sunset after all. Ed saying have a good night to them. We are 15 minutes away from the beginning of Wrestlemania Night 2. We have only one more match to talk about, so let's talk about it. That is our main event, the Universal Championship. Roman Reigns, Edge, and Daniel Bryan. Now, Edge won the Royal Rumble. Daniel Bryan, quote unquote, weaseled his way in the typical Daniel Bryan style because he is simply unavoidable. He's an inevitable part of WrestleMania, and so he should be. And of course, Roman Reigns is Roman Reigns. Me, personally, I will be happy with any winner, but I believe Roman Reigns will be the one taking this one. Ella, what do you think?
This one has me so confused because I could literally see any of them winning. I can see the case. However, I do think Roman Reigns is retaining here. However, there's so many factors. Like, is it Daniel Bryan's last WrestleMania? If so, is he just there to take the fall, to be the fall guy, to take the pin? Or are they going to have him capitalize and have one more feel-good moment? But also, you have Edge who came back, and it's literally 10 years to the day that he retired. Will they have them capitalize on that moment for the feel-good nostalgia again? Or will he turn back to the ultimate opportunities? Kind of turned heel. Will he sneak a win and pin Daniel Bryan? Will somebody finally pin Roman Reigns? There's so many moving parts. Will we see the Usos or Paul Heyman be involved in this match and help Roman win? Or will we see them turn on the head of the table? I can literally see the case for all three of them. However, I do think Roman Reigns is going to retain. And I personally think Daniel Bryan is just here to be the fall guy in this because there's no way I can't see Edge or Roman Reigns I can't see Edge being pinned. I can see Roman being pinned if like the Usos turn on him or something, or if the Usos try to help him and somehow distract him and then Daniel gets the win. But under no circumstances can I see Edge being the fall guy in this scenario. So either Roman's going to retain and Daniel gets the pin, or Daniel's going to win and pins Roman after some interruption or distraction.
As a quick aside before we continue, I do have the kickoff show prepped and ready on my screen. And can I just say, Ed, how dare you make me put on a suit knowing that Sonya Deville was going to be on, making me look ridiculous. This, compared to that, ridiculous. Nobody wears a suit as well as Sonya Deville. Nobody. Would have been our winner in Hall of Fame, but we were not rating as that regards. My opinion here is that Edge has not delivered as they were hoping for. I think he was supposed to get the face push, but it didn't really connect. It didn't really take off. At the same time, Daniel Bryan has been completely inescapable. He's been so powerful. He's been so creative. Yeah. He's made things happen. I've been corrected by Michael that I have to say Daddy Deville and not Sonya Deville. Thank you very much, Michael, for that one. Ed is saying Roman or bust here. The betting averages have been all over the place here. Edge originally was the betting favorite. Daniel Bryan is now the betting favorite. And honestly, Roman Reigns, despite not being the betting favorite, I think he's a favorite amongst the predictions that I've seen, certainly of wrestling fans, pundits, and commentators that have been covering the ground. It's certainly interesting to hear that you also agree that Roman Reigns is likely to win this one. Where do you think we go from here for the championship? Now, you believe Roman Reigns will retain. Yeah. Do you think he will continue to feud with an Edge or Daniel Bryan, or will we see something new?
I think it all depends if we're getting a shakeup or not.
This is the annoying thing about all of this. At some point, we've said in chat, what if we have a shakeup? And now we can't stop thinking about it.
Who's there? Assuming we're not getting a shakeup, I think if Edge loses here, because Edge is technically a Raw superstar, I think Edge just goes back to Raw. Who like, who even is viable on SmackDown? Oh, I really don't know. I really don't know. Like, I think Edge goes back to SmackDown. Maybe Big E. Maybe Big E drops the IC title, so we finally get Big E versus Roman Reigns. I could see that. I My only fear though is if Cesaro goes for it, there's no way Cesaro is losing, and my hopes are already like crushed. So I think if they're gonna Nakamura, true. I can see that going on for a few months until maybe whatever their bigger plan is for SummerSlam. I think Roman is going to retain here, and then he's going to run for a few months at least till SummerSlam, where they have a bigger opponent for him. I think these next few months might just be filler matches, unfortunately. However, unless they have Biggie drop the IC title and push him against Roman, so maybe.
Filler matches aren't necessarily a bad thing. Technically, Kevin Owens was filler matches, and that really benefited him and Roman. I'm a big proponent of 1 month feuds. I look back to John Cena and CM Punk was a 5-star match by Dave Meltzer, and that was a 1 month feud, and certainly it reinvigorated a lot of interest. Ed has also mentioned Baron Corbin, but I decided not to mention that during the answer because who wants to see that again?
Please no.
And
I will not be watching.
I'm not even down on Corbin. I respect the fact that he's imminently hateable, but at the same time, I don't want to see Roman and Corbin in a ring ever again. I think at this point, I don't want to see anything involving dog food.
Oh my god, that's true.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I've just made myself angry, and it's one of those. There's a number of options available. I do think we may see a shakeup. McIntyre is now an option for a shakeup, and I think that could be a good build. But we'll have to wait and see. It seems like there's starting to be a problem with a lack of faces in all manners. Maybe we're a bit heel heavy in the WWE, but we'll wait and see as regards that. We are 10 minutes away from the start of WrestleMania Night 2. We are wrapping up here. So Ella, tell us where we can find you on social media and your creative endeavors.
You can find a Wrestling Gal basically anywhere you find your podcast, on Apple, Spotify, Anchor, Stitcher, and all your other podcasting platforms. And you can follow a Wrestling Gal on Twitter and Instagram at a Wrestling Gal, or you can go on a WrestlingGal.com for merch and links to listen to episodes too as well.
Thank you very much for joining us, Ella. I've really enjoyed this. It's nice to get different perspectives and bring different people on, and I did think that we just gel really well on this. We've got different opinions on predictions, which is not what happened yesterday. Steve and I mostly agreed to things, which was also quite fun, but I like the disagreements as regards to, and I look forward to checking in on your stuff a bit later, and then hopefully seeing more of you again on this channel in future.
Oh, for sure. Thank you. This was a lot of fun. My first time, even though I can't see Twitch, Ella J's favorite wrestler. Which one? What was the question?
Ed has asked the question, what is your favorite wrestler, Ella J?
I am wearing him, Shawn Michaels.
You are wearing Shawn Michaels. Well, there's your answer right there. What can I just ask? You've got the pictures behind you. Who are everyone on the pictures behind you? I see Charlotte, I see Jeff.
Deonna Purrazzo, Tennille Dashwood was sent to me by Impact. I love her though. I got an interview coming up with her soon, actually. Jeff Hardy, The Miz, Charlotte Flair, Mickey and Alexa, and then over here is Io Shirai, and then Liv Morgan.
Fantastic. We are going to wrap up there. Big thank you to Ella J for helping us out with the kickoff show today. It really lightens the load for me, and I'm really grateful for you agreeing to jump in and help out here. We will be seeing all of you in the chat, or at least I will be seeing all of you in the chat in just under 5 minutes back on Twitch solely. So if you're watching on YouTube or you are watching on Periscope, be sure to go to twitch.tv/Tom Collier, and we will see you there. In the meantime, I'll see you all very shortly. Thank you very much, Ella, and thank you very much, everyone, for joining.
Thank you.